I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't know what depression was. I just knew I didn't want to be there, wasn't going to any of the team meetings, wasn't participating in anything. Years later, I went through it again when I got a divorce. Didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Years later, around 2017 or so, went through a little bit.
Really?
But knew what it was at that time, and luckily at that time I had some friends who I could lean on.
That is The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, opening up in a very candid way about his own battle with depression on a recent episode of the Pivot podcast. He's not alone, though. A new Gallup survey that was just released this morning actually shows 29% of adults have been told by a doctor or a nurse they have depression, and 18% of those adults are currently being treated for it. Joining us now to talk about that report is clinical psychologist at NYU Health, Dr. Rebecca Berry. Thank you so much for being here. I think Poppy and I are both so struck by these numbers. And, hearing it from a celebrity, hearing him talk about it, I think is important, but it is something that everyone seems to be dealing with, a lot of people.
These are very high numbers. And interestingly, we have seen a growing trend in the rates of depression in adults, also our young people as well. And it's prominent to see it displayed here for us to talk about. And I'd love to discuss also some of the reasons why we may be seeing these numbers right now.
Why?
I think over the years, we've seen a trend in women, reporting increasing numbers of depression and anxiety. We know that coming out of the pandemic, there were a number of factors there that led people to be forced to think about how they're feeling. And I think a lot of people started talking about it from a mental health professional level, as well as just from in the medical field. I think we are getting better at understanding what depression looks like and what these mental illnesses look like. And we're getting better at diagnosing them, particularly amongst certain groups as well.
I wonder what people should do and to figure out if they're just down or sad or depressed.
Right. I think it's a hard thing to think about because we don't, a lot of people have these feelings. We want to make sure that people don't feel alone in what they're experiencing. It can be very confusing, as we saw from The Rock. It can be confusing and hard to know, what am I feeling and what this means? And many people often think that, well, nothing can be done about this. I must just kind of, suppress this or just deal with it. And really, we want to encourage people to talk to their support systems if they're there, or at least reach out to some type of treatment team, medical team, to get support. We do have a number of when they're available, good resources for individuals. But it can be hard to know, what do I do with these feelings? And I don't want to be a burden on someone with these feelings.
Yeah, I do think it's tough for people. The other thing is, it's obviously tough for people, but I'm saying tough for people to talk about it. Symptoms, I think, is something that people want to know. As Poppy was saying, how do you know when you've crossed that threshold, that you are there, and it is something that you should seek treatment for?
Right. I think an individual, if they can be aware of what they're going through, hopefully can ascertain whether or not these feelings really are above and beyond what is common for them. And if these symptoms, such as loss of interest in pleasant activities, really a withdrawal from normal routines of life, not really showing up for your friends, activities and whatnot, and really just a fatigue, excessive need for sleep, if those things persist for a long period of time, for more than a 2-week period, and cause significant disruption in any major life area, then that really is a good time to say, hey, maybe I could start to talk to someone, or really just ask for support.
And maybe what about listening to people around you that love you, your friends who say you seem like something seems different?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And oftentimes it can be hard if an individual is in the midst of a depression for them to really sometimes accept that support, because they don't want to be a burden. They feel like perhaps sometimes no one might understand exactly what I'm going through. So there can be a little bit of a divide there.
Is this because of COVID, just this elevated number? And if it is it reversible? Because now more people are going back to work. They get to be with people. Caitlin makes me happier every morning. Really just talking to people.
Does it change that?
That is a great point. I think that getting back into the routine of work, where you can feel a sense of accomplishment and mastery and be around wonderful people, can certainly help with that. And I think that COVID certainly provided a lens into what we were experiencing. And for many individuals and communities, we saw a rise in these depression rates due to the circumstances and the stressors.
Dr. Berry, obviously really important numbers for us to all keep a track of it, and to check on your friends and family and make sure everyone's doing okay.